so I don't forget.
Sure.
Um, I want to just kind of get to know you and kind of where you come from and how you ended up where you are, what makes you tick, and hopefully through your story, inspire other young girls and women to realize that, the perceived barriers or the actual barriers that are out there are not so great that they can't be overcome in these male-dominated fields. Um, and what
Great.
I'll do is separately, I'll record an intro with pulling from your bio, but I want to just kind of go through the bullet points to make sure I don't misrepresent anything when I do record that.
Sure.
Um, and then you can tell me if there's anything I've missed and that you want me to include in there. So I'll go over that, and then we'll just kind of make it conversational. I have a couple questions I want to ask you, but we'll just kind of see where it goes. And my
Sure.
hope is that when someone's listening to the podcast, it's like, oh, I met this girlfriend in a bar, and I'm like, oh, you kind of are in a male dominated field, and we must have similar experiences, and let's talk about it. So that's what I hope the feel is like.
Great.
So,
Casual.
oh, yeah, definitely. Okay, so you're from Omaha, right?
Mhm.
Grew up in Omaha. You have two sisters or three?
Two.
Two sisters. And you were a Division I catcher. You started out at Creighton, but then you finished at University of New Mexico.
Yes.
I almost moved to Albuquerque.
I
I was
love
this
it there.
close.
Love it there.
You majored in exercise science, and then after that, you got a master's in kinesiology. That was your first master's, and
Hmm.
then subsequently got a second master's in the Netherlands in human movement sciences. Is that right?
Yes, that's
Okay,
correct.
cool. Um, so you started out as far as coaching, started out in strength and conditioning in the minor leagues, St. Louis Cardinals at the Johnson City, Tennessee affiliate.
Hmm.
And there you won the affiliate strength coach of the year, right?
Yes. Yep.
Title. And let me look at my notes here. And then you became strength and conditioning coordinator for the coordinator for the affiliate, right? You started as a coach and then you became a coordinator.
Yeah, for the Cardinals. So I started
Okay.
out as basically an intern for them and then was hired as their coordinator.
Oh, cool. Okay. And then you were the Houston Astros Latin American Strength and Conditioning Coordinator. Another like first woman in that role. You're the first one in the role for the Cardinals, and then the first woman for the Astros in that role. Um, where were you based during that time?
Oh, oh my,
Everywhere, a bunch of
yeah,
places.
I know, I'm feeling bad as you're rattling this off. I'm
Okay.
like, this is so long. I've lived, yeah, Albuquerque and then Baton Rouge for my master's, then
Yeah.
Johnson City, Tennessee was with the Cardinals as an intern, then West Palm
Yeah.
Beach with the Cardinals, then Orlando for a year with the Astros, then back to West
Okay.
Palm Beach. Then I
Okay.
lived in the Dominican Republic, then I lived in Corpus Christi,
Wow.
Texas with the
Wow.
Astros, finished there, moved to the, I'm going to finish my bio for you, moved to
Sure.
the Netherlands.
Yeah.
After that, after my third year with the Astros, I got a second
Uh-huh.
master's. I moved to Seattle, then close to you,
Okay.
to do my
Yeah.
research for that master's degree. And now I live in Tampa,
Okay.
so
Okay. Cool.
all over.
And all over. Yeah. And what I wasn't sure about was when you're the Latin American coordinator, if you actually had to move to Latin America. So you were still,
Both.
you did. Oh, you did. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I
Um,
was in West Palm Beach, but I was living a month at a time in the Dominican Republic and then a month in West Palm. So
okay.
I spent like 4 or 5 months total in the Dominican Republic that year.
Okay.
Yeah, so both.
Okay. Okay. And then as of November 2019, you were the newest hitting coach with the Yankees, um, and
Hmm.
supposed to start spring training.
Yeah.
Right? Things are kind of on hold right now. And again, first woman in that role.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Okay. All right. So is there anything else you want me to add to that? Do you want me to mention like the Virtual Handshake Academy or FEM?
I can talk about
Or we
FEM
can
later.
talk
I
about
think,
that.
Yeah, I think it
Okay.
really applies to your audience probably that's going to be listening
Okay.
to this. So we can talk about femme for sure.
Cool. Awesome. And don't let me forget to include that, and you can throw that in there if you want. All right, cool. So then after the structure will be after I kind of do that recorded intro, then we'll start. So
Okay.
you good?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So after a moment of silence, we'll just start. We'll roll with it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Hi, Rachel. I'm so happy to have you on. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, I think this project is phenomenal. So I'm happy that you reached out.
So I'd told the audience a little bit about your background, but I would love to hear what it was like growing up for you, what your childhood was like, and sort of, in the podcast version, your life story and how you ended up starting out in Omaha and then ending up one of the first female hitting coaches in the Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I love that question, and especially on this podcast because I think it's overlooked a bit. Like people are kind of like, "Oh, you're with the New York Yankees, or
Mhm.
you've been in. This is my seventh season in professional baseball," and they're like, "Wow, you must be really tough." And I'm like, "Well, I was tough before I got into
Yeah.
professional baseball, and that's why I was able to get into
Right.
professional baseball is just because I grew up in a household where. So I have two sisters, and my
Mhm.
mom and dad raised us in Omaha, Nebraska, and just very much a blue collar, like gritty upbringing. And my dad totally raised us. He didn't raise us like boys or girls. He just raised us doing whatever we wanted to do.
Mhm.
And I think they intentionally put us in sports when we were growing up just to keep us busy. But we totally took to that, and all three of us girls were athletes, and we never. I could just it's crazy to me to think that some young women grow up and their parents say, "Oh, you can't do that. You're a girl," or
Yeah.
"You shouldn't weigh that much because you're a girl," or the size of your clothing or whatever. And we just never grew up like that. We grew up in a household where I didn't even know that it was a big deal for me to play sports as a girl, or to play at a high level, I should say, because it was
Mhm.
pretty mainstream by the time that I was growing up for young women to have opportunities to play like competitive softball and competitive sports.
Mhm.
But like, keep in mind, I mean, West Coast is a little different, but like in Nebraska, my own mom didn't really have that many opportunities to play competitive sports at all. So one generation ago, it wasn't really common, so I didn't even know the difference. I just was like doing my thing. And my dad definitely instilled that kind of like rough and gruff kind of attitude, and but still fostered, if we wanted to wear dresses and do whatever, like we just could be our own people and kind of do both things. And so yeah, we were just raised in a household where it was good to be strong, and physically strong, sure, but more so just to have a voice. And my mom, I never tell this story, but my mom, I talk a lot about my dad, and everyone wants to talk because, girl dad is a thing. It's like everyone wants to talk, "Oh, you're a daddy's girl." And I'm not really either. But my mom is a strong woman, man. I mean, not sports wise, but like she will tell you what she thinks. And she, like, I mean, I can even think, my earliest memory of like my mom having an opinion about something was that one of her friends at work went on maternity leave, and basically like the company fired her, and she sued the company,
Wow.
and my mom like
Yeah.
testified against the company and put her job at risk. And I remember her talking about that. And when you're a kid, you don't think, but I look back, I'm like, dang, my mom was a tough son of a gun. Like she just did not take any shit. And they both, like, side by side, they both raised us to just be very like strong-minded, convicted, not shy. Sit in any room, say anything that you want. And that's how I got to be in professional baseball. Not, "Oh, I'm in professional baseball, that must have made me really tough." No. I had to
Right.
be I had to be tough way before I got to professional baseball, because otherwise I wouldn't even, first of all, even thought to apply,
Right.
which is one of the problems with women getting into these jobs. They
Mhm.
don't even think to apply. So first of all, just that I was so naive that I applied for the job. Second of all, that I could interview and present myself in a room full of men, and then to actually do the job, like before you even get to doing the job, the steps before that, leading all the going all the way back to me playing like youth sports and tackling people and my dad like cheering me on, it goes way
Right.
way 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 before me actually having the job, which I think is something that's kind of like overlooked when we're talking about women being in male dominated fields.
Right. And and it sounds like your parents both raised you to be tough, but almost in letting you be who you wanted to be as far as the what the stereotypical masculine and feminine qualities are, and just letting you pick and choose whatever suited you. It was almost like it gave you a sort of the good kind of ignorance of
Hmm.
what society thinks you can and can't do,
I was so
and it
naive in a good
right?
way.
Like, in the good way, naivety, because it's
Yes.
like, well, why wouldn't I do this? This is what I wanna do, and
Yeah.
it resonates with me a lot because when I decided to go into orthopedics, I was like, "Oh, this is sweet. It's awesome. This is clearly what I'm gonna do with my life," and I was really genuinely surprised when people said, "W well, but girls don't do that. Women don't do that," or, "Why would you wanna do that? You don't look like a big jock," you know? And I think it's the same thing. It's almost like this naivety, but if you're strong enough to just be like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna do it anyway," then
Oh,
that's good.
I'm been like rehashing this story. It's like I was a level 10 naive. Like I had no idea that it was even, like my career started in collegiate athletics, and
Mhm,
there's women, and I was a female athlete in college. And so
mhm.
my worldview is like, okay, there's men, there's women, they both are athletes. They both, there's female coaches, there's female athletic trainers, there's even female strength coaches. And so when I decided to get into professional baseball, or that I wanted to make that a career choice, I was looking for jobs, and I was on this site, the professional baseball strength coaches like site,
Mhm.
and there were job postings, and there was like zero articles written by women, zero, like, the emails were all men's emails to like send in
Yep.
your resume, all of them, not even there
Yeah.
was not a trace of a woman on the site. And I was like, I was like, I'll never forget. I was like, that's weird. I like walked out of my office. This is at LSU. Walked into my boss's office, who was a woman.
Mhm.
I said, her name is Melissa. I said, Mel, are there like, do you know if there's any female strength coaches in the MLB? And she just looked at me like, duh, no. Like, what do you mean? She's like, Rachel, I'm pretty sure there's no female strength coaches in any professional sport. And I just was like shocked, like that. I was so naive. And then just like you just said, I was like, huh, oh, okay. Like, and then I went about
Okay.
my merry way. Yeah, yeah. Then I went about my merry way applying, like not having
Yeah.
any idea that it was going to be so difficult to get in. I was very naive, but I like am grateful that I was naive. Like you said, it's that good naivete where you're like, because if it starts so early too. My parents just, they didn't shield me from it. They didn't intentionally shield me from it. They just raised me in a way where my mind was just like, oh, I'll do whatever I want
Right.
when I want to,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna have a plan, but this is how I'm gonna do it. And it wasn't like my parents never said you can't do that because you're of your gender, no matter what it was. Basically, I mean, they kept me out of football actually. So, but like they, nothing to do with like academics or career or anything. They never said
Right.
anything one way or the other. So I just was like so naive about that situation, which was positive.
Kind of a blessing in the end.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because by the time it came time for me to apply, it was way too late for anyone to deter me. I was like,
Right.
oh, I'll just apply. Okay. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
just going to do it. It was way too late for anyone to actually deter me at that point.
Right. But what was it like when you started to, I mean, almost literally have doors shut on you when you got on the phone to do a phone interview and they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, this is a female." Because you actually had to change your resume to get your foot in the door. Tell me what that was like.
So yeah, that was like a weird. Okay, so my naivete level was 10, and I applied for all these jobs, got nothing
Mhm.
back, and then my master's degree ended the following year, And I just thought, like, I hadn't finished my master's degree, but so I just thought, okay, like I still had another year that I could do at LSU.
Mhm.
So then I applied again the following year, I think, and the St. Louis Cardinals, heard nothing back, but the St. Louis Cardinals called LSU. LSU has a really great strength and conditioning program. And they called LSU and said, "Hey, we're looking for a summer intern. Do you have any candidates you could recommend?" And of course, LSU was like, "Yeah, like we do. They work with baseball and softball. They were a Division I catcher. They're excellent. And by the way, it's a girl. What do you think?" And so I was fortunate enough to where the Cardinals did give me a little in there with a summer internship.
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Oh, relatively, that's pretty easy." I was like, "Cool." Like, again, my naivete is like up there. I had no idea. So I'm like, "Oh, cool. Okay, that like great," because that's what should happen. Because I got my master's degree at LSU, which is an excellent sports school, and I had done an
Mhm.
internship at Arizona State, internship at Exos, internship in my undergraduate degree as well. Division, like I had this great resume. I'm like, okay, this is what should happen. So then after that year, it got a little bumpy. I went to so it was a summer internship. So like when the internship's done, they're like, "Hey, you did a great job, but like um, we don't pay you in the off season. We'll call you in six
Yeah.
months if there's another job." So I had to go find
Right.
other things. I actually moved to the Dominican Republic for the first time then for 3 months and did a little internship with one of the winter ball teams down there. Then
Mhm.
I moved to Phoenix thinking that I was going to start a PhD. I didn't really have a job. I was considering a PhD in nutrition. So I moved to
Mhm.
Phoenix. So that's when my naivete finally went away. I moved to Phoenix and there's 15 teams based in Phoenix. And I applied for like that coming season. I applied for like 10 jobs. Just sent my resume to every open job to all these teams that are based in Phoenix. And I got nothing back, nothing. And I was like, that's, I just thought, but I was like, well, I just got to work harder. These jobs are really competitive. And so finally I get a call mid-spring training. By that time I had already picked up a waitressing job just to pay my bills because I was
Mhm.
taking prerequisites to get into my PhD, which I never ended up doing.
Yeah.
Um, so I finally get a call from someone in spring training and they're like, "Hey, we want to interview you. One of our guys quit. Are you still open?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." Interviewed twice, things went well. He was like, "Hey, you're the person we want to hire, just got to get a couple things in order, I'll call you in a couple days." Well, I never heard from him after that.
Wow.
And I was like, that's weird. Like, he said he'd call in a few days. So
Yeah.
finally, several weeks later, I get a phone call from him and he just was beside himself. He was very like apologetic, but he was like, you know um, he's like, "I'm really sorry, but we're not going to be able to hire you. I wanted to hire you, but the administration told me that we're not going to hire a woman in this position." And he was like, "I just
Ugh.
want to be, he was like, "I just want to be honest." And I was like so thankful, of rush of emotions. It's like upsetting, but at the
Yeah.
same time I'm like, why is this guy telling me this? Like, what, because it's
Right.
illegal. He could
It's
have just
so
lied.
illegal.
But so it turns out his
Yeah.
mom is a PhD. And he was like, "My mom's a PhD. I love women. Like, I have a sister." He's like, "I am so sorry." He's like, "I just wanted to be full honest with you." And he was like, "Oh, and by the way, it took me so long to get back to you because I called around to all the other teams that had open positions, and they also said the same thing, that they had
Oh,
received your
wow.
resume and that you
Wow.
have a good resume, but they just weren't going to hire a woman." And so
Unbelievable.
the naivete was gone after that.
Yeah.
It was like in one phone call, I went from like a 10 to a 0. I
Yeah.
was like, whoa. I
It's
mean, I had no
shocking.
idea. Yeah. So, and I'd already done, again,
Yeah.
let's recap. I'd already done an internship with the St. Louis Cardinals, internship in the Dominican. I spoke some Spanish, LSU, Arizona State, athletes performance. Like, I had this crazy good resume for a young person. And I should have put two and two together, but I just was like, I didn't get it. I didn't understand. So
Right.
then the next year coming around, so I sat out that year of baseball, waitress, worked at Lululemon, and then I also like to kind of keep my somewhere in that year decided I didn't want to do a PhD and I wanted to stay coaching for a bit longer.
Mhm.
And I picked up another internship at Arizona State. So I interned at Arizona State twice for free in my career. And I just
Mhm.
basically was like going to Arizona State, working with baseball and softball and soccer at like 5 in the morning, and then going to my waitressing job and then like Lululemon on the weekends. So I just was like making ends meet, trying to keep my resume fresh, doing that at Arizona State internship. And then that's when I just like the next year I was so desperate, and I just felt like there's a little chip on my shoulder. There was a little, the naivete was gone. So I was like, okay, like
Mhm.
I know what I'm working against right now.
Right.
So the next year coming around, I just decided when I was going to send my resume out that I would send it out as Ray, RAE,
Mhm.
instead of Rachel.
Mhm.
So I changed my name on my resume. I changed like NCAA Division One softball player to NCAA Division One catcher. So that
Mhm.
was gender neutral. I just made sure that everything was neutral and then sent it off. And I got responses so fast, like the
Right.
fastest. So
Yeah.
I got a few emails back saying like, okay, we're interested. Let's set up an interview, you know. And I emailed back as Ray, and we're setting up interviews. And then I got a phone call one day from a number I didn't know. Wasn't thinking. I was outside with some friends. I picked it up, and the guy was like, "Oh, can I speak to Ray, please?" And I just was like, "What? What?" I was like, "Oh, this is she." I was just like so shocked. And he was like,
Right.
there's like a ruffling of papers in the background, and he was like, sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I had the right name." And I was like, "Yeah, right. Like you just
Yeah.
were surprised."
Right.
So I
Mm.
unfortunately like couldn't talk then. I was like, "Can we just chat tomorrow? Because this isn't a good time." And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, sure." Well, I never heard from him. I followed
Oh
up with a phone call, email,
gosh.
and then I just like it was a paradoxically, it was like really disappointing. And I just had this like weird feeling about obviously lying. And I just thought my thought process was like, I was so desperate to just like get on the phone with someone and hope that they would talk to me and be like, wow, this, you know, this coach is like legit. Like she, you know, she's really
Mhm.
good. That was my hope with changing my name. It was never to like directly deceive anyone or like, you know, to long, I mean, obviously they're going to figure out I'm a girl, but I think strangely, even though I was getting discriminated against, it was still like this little bit of hope because that I was getting
Right.
calls, I was getting something back. So I was like,
Right.
it gave me a little bit of fuel to keep going because I was like, oh, okay, they like my resume. Like I get these immediate like callbacks when I change my name, which means that I'm doing the right things. My hard work is
Mhm.
paying off in this weird
Mhm.
twisted way. And so, kind of long story short, I late in that off season, I had signed up for yet another unpaid internship in Boston. I don't
Mhm.
even know what I was thinking. I was totally broke. I was gonna drive in my car and like sleep in my car in Boston in January. Like I don't
Oh
even.
gosh.
Yeah, so I was, and if you're, or you might have heard of Eric Cressy. He's a baseball guy. He's huge, huge, huge in baseball. But
Mhm.
so I had gotten an internship with him because I thought, well, if I can't get into professional baseball, I'll do it in the private sector. So I finally was getting close to the next season, and I was planning on going to Boston. And then I got a call from the St. Louis Cardinals, the major league strength coach. And he was like, you know, I was thinking, why is this guy calling me? I was surprised. He was like, hey, Rachel, he's like, our coordinator moved on, and he recommended you to take his place. Would you be interested in being the minor league coordinator? And I'm just like shocked because again,
I'm sure.
I was
Yeah.
having trouble getting a low paid like summer internship, let
Right.
alone a minor league coordinator. For everyone out there listening, like the way that baseball works is like I was overseeing 10, by the way, male strength coaches and 250 athletes and assisting the major league strength coach with whatever he needed. It's
Mhm.
it's a huge job. It's one of the biggest jobs in professional baseball. So I was having trouble like getting a little internship, and then I got hired as a coordinator. So
Which is amazing.
yeah, so I mean, and if who knows what would happen if that didn't really shake out with the Cardinals. They were just willing to do it. You know, they were, and again, like when I first got an internship with them, I thought like, okay, well, it's just because girls haven't applied for these positions or no qualified women have applied for these positions because I got an internship right away with the Cardinals. But
Right.
realistically, they were probably one of very few teams that were willing to hire a woman. So that's
Yeah.
probably why there were no women. Uh,
Right.
you know, hats off to the Cards and Pete Prinzi specifically, for being open to hiring me in the first place. And I think that kind of opened the floodgates a bit. I hope it did, you know, I hope it opened the floodgates for other organizations and kind of show that not only did the Cardinals hire me, but they hired me in an extremely like high level management position.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. And I think, let's see, where do I want to go next? So, obviously with all of these first woman this title, first woman that title, right? In all these different roles, um, there obviously there were no women, right, in those roles before you came along. Um, how do you think things have changed today, and how many other peers can you count in similar roles in Major League Baseball that are actually women now?
Oh, there's so many. There's a lot more. I mean, there's like a handful, a solid handful, not a couple,
Yeah,
but a solid handful of strength
right.
coaches. I think off the top of my head, there's like, I want to say like seven or eight. And
Yeah,
then, which still sounds very small, but
right. Well, compared to before when there were none.
yeah, right. Like in
Right,
2012, I was an intern. And then 2014, I was the first ever full time
right.
strength and so 2000 it's 5 years it
Gotcha.
and so and strength and conditioning is very male dominated as it is, so we're never going to
Mhm,
see 50-50. It's like that's a good handful. Athletic trainers, there are definitely a lot more women, but that's athletic training is a female dominated field in general, so there I feel like there should be even way more athletic trainers.
mhm,
um and then as far as like coaches, so this year kind of like bust the door open. There's four of us that are in uniform this year. I'm a hitting coach, and then there's two that are like, they're called fourth coaches. They're kind of like assistant coaches that they might like help with the technology, or like kind of a catch-all that like are assisting the staff.
mhm,
And then there's one woman at the major league level for the Giants who is also in like a kind of supporting role, essentially, of the staff, like almost she's just supporting a lot of different things going on. So yeah, there's actually four women that'll be in uniform all season long this year. And I don't know, I think it seems slow, but at the same time, I think just society is changing in general, especially surrounding women in sport. Like
right.
just, gosh, like when I was hired in 2014 as the first ever full-time woman strength coach in all of professional sports, no one wanted to interview me. And now it's like I got ESPN, I got ABC, and it's
I
not
know.
me. It's not like I've changed as a person. It's
Yeah,
just society is like ready. Like, okay,
yep,
social media is all over it and celebrating
mhm,
women in sports, and women's sports are on TV a lot more, and just
absolutely.
more visibility and more celebration surrounding women in sport and the women's marches. That didn't 2014, we're talking about like 5 or 6 years now.
Mhm,
Massive change from when I
yeah,
was first hired,
yeah,
to the second time. Now it's like this, I'm like, wait, this is my seventh year in baseball, and now everyone is like all over it.
right,
And it's just, I think
yeah.
that's a testament to the way that society is changing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot has happened in the past several years, and there's definitely a lot more general public and media attention. But at the same time, I'm sure probably in your day to day, as it is for me, things still happen where you say, "Ooh, we still got some work to do," you
Oh,
know?
totally. Yes.
Now, do you have any particular, kind of a two-part question, do you have any particular eye roll moments that really stick out to you? And the second part of that question is, how I always feel like in our roles being women in male dominated fields that you also kind of have to pick your battles. Can you tell me a little bit
Yeah.
more about that two-part question?
Well, okay, I've recently come upon this analogy. I made it up, I think, but maybe somebody else already thought about this. But I liken it to like if you're a mom and you have three sons and a husband, and you walk into the bathroom and the toilet seat is up. Do you automatically say to yourself, wow, my sons must hate me and they are discriminated against me and they don't want me here and I don't belong here? No, you probably just roll your eyes and you put the seat down, just like there, it's because in their mind, like, just like everyone, by the way, not just guys, but me, you, everyone,
Mhm.
we think from our perspective. And so I try to
Yep.
just like, I think in the past few years, I've just had a lot more empathy for like they just haven't thought about it.
Yeah.
They just haven't thought about it.
Mhm.
Like 2018, the Astros built a $20 million facility with the Nationals. And by the way, I had a great experience with the Astros and loved them. So I'm not,
Yeah.
it's not trashing the Astros. It's just is what it is. They built a brand new facility in West Palm Beach,
Mhm.
2018. No women's facilities. And
That is
I was working for them in their
unbelievable.
player development system. I was already a
Yeah.
strength coach for them. Now maybe the building plans were like, already in the works when I got to them, but like they could have thrown in a
Well,
couple extra lockers for women.
yeah.
And I literally like went to the new facility and I was like, are there any women's locker rooms? And just like the looks on people's faces, they were like, oh shit. Like,
That's a big oops.
yeah, like, oh shit, we forgot to put the seat down for you.
Right.
So ended up that they like there was a women's umpire locker room on like the back side of the building. So if I had to like, I could use like there was like one unisex restroom that like everyone used that was horrible. But like when I needed to change my clothes and whatever, it was on
Yeah.
the back side of the building, which again, it's like, I don't think they hate me. I don't think they were just discriminating. I don't think they were trying to send a message to get me out of there. I think that they just didn't think about it.
Yeah.
So it's rarely that, I mean, I roll my eyes, but I'm like, okay, like I gotta be like, hey guys, I'm here.
Right.
Hi,
Exactly.
and it's not just men. It's like another little story about that is double A 2018 season. Yeah. 2018 season in double A. I went to Corpus Christi, Texas with their double A affiliate and we did like a, um, season ticket holders autograph day. And
Mhm.
so all the players and the staff went up in their like uniform or whatever your
Mhm.
Astro stuff. So we like go up on the concourse and all the season ticket holders are there getting autographs. And we're like standing in a line and it's like the pitching coach, the hitting coach, me, and then the manager, the head coach. Like we're in a line. I'm wearing my like Houston Astros polo. Obviously I'm like a part of the coaching staff. And people were just like walking by me. They were like, they would get like autograph from the pitching coach, autograph from the hitting coach, men, women, and children. Skip me, autograph from the head coach because they're like, what is she? What is she doing? What does she do?
Right.
Is she
Who is this
someone's?
person?
Is she
Yeah.
someone's wife? Is she someone's girlfriend? Like,
Yeah.
do I get her autograph? What is she? And so it's just like people don't know. They're not expecting it, and it's sometimes it's hurtful. But I don't like that was really hurtful actually. I remember that it was
Yeah.
just like kind of depressing because it's like you work your whole career and you get to this point and you think you're doing something good and like people are it's like
Right.
I'm invisible, but it's not. I don't say like wow that little 10-year-old that just skipped me in the autograph line is an asshole. It's just those things don't
Yeah.
feel good, but it doesn't mean
It's
that
that
somebody's
unconscious bias,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, again, it was like men, women, and children, not just
Mhm.
men skipping me, like moms, women skipping me too. Like they didn't think that I was a part of the staff. So
Right.
I just think that we have to have like empathy and it's change.
Right.
So you don't
And
like
I think
change. I don't like change. Nobody like change. Right.
right. Right.
So we just have to realize that it's just change. And I'm a part of that change. So it's not always comfortable for me, but it is what it is.
Right. And it's often hard in the moment to be like, I'm going to change this right here, right now, especially when it's a lot of times unwitting, and I'm sure that a lot of those parents that walked through that line and skipped right over you, had they realized what they did, had they realized here's this woman who is in this role, they would have been mortified because I'm sure they have daughters and they would love to see somebody as a role model in that position. And it's kind of this unconscious bias that exists. And I think ultimately, when we put out things like this, like podcasts, and you go on the media and you talk about your experience, and even just not even your experience, you just talk about your work, you talk about strength and conditioning, that having that face out there is a form of education.
Yeah.
And it kind of wakes people up to the fact it's like, oh, well, I didn't know there was a women's strength coach or coordinator and
Yeah.
in the major leagues. And wow, And so when that person, if they're a parent, they talk to their child, they go, "Look, yeah, she can do that, so can you," you know?
I
So I think
know.
that's
I
important.
You brought up something too that just reminded me of like this really sad. When this was recurring. So like every time we were at home, or not every time, but many times, there'd be like a little league team that would come and could run
Mhm.
out onto the field with the players. So like
Mhm.
basically each player takes like one or two kids out with them for the national anthem, and they get to like do the national anthem. And sometimes it would be like a softball team,
Yeah.
and the dads are usually dads that are coaching. They like bring all the girls up, and before the game, before the national anthem, they can get autographs, and they're like, "Hey, get his autograph, get his autograph." And I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, these little girls, I'm like, no, I like, don't you see me here? Like, I'm a woman in this dugout with these players, coaching these
Yeah.
players in an authoritative position, but they like don't know. It's almost like you're invisible, because they're just like, ugh, like what is that
Yeah.
creature? Like, I don't know what is going on here, but I'm not sure. Like, again, it's just this change. So
Yeah.
it's a interesting to be the change sitting in the dugout, because it can be hurtful, but it's not like I take it personally from them. It's just like not a good feeling always to be kind of this like invisible figure.
Right. I have a kind of a similar story that a friend of mine told me. She's a captain, commercial airline pilot, and
Hmm.
she was flying a deadhead flight home, and so it was, or she was a passenger. She was sitting kind of close to the front in one of the passenger seats, and her first captain was several rows back. And one of the flight attendants just had some kind of a question, walked right past her, past the captain, to go back to the male, you know, her male colleague in the back that was technically of lower rank, to ask the
Yeah.
question. And she's just like, you know,
Yeah.
hello, hello, I'm right here. And I think that's kind of a similar thing happening there. And
Yeah.
it takes time, and it takes change, and it takes education, you know.
Yeah.
So
And yeah. I mean, I'm just glad that I hope that I'm like being part of it, and feels good to have a purpose in that. So,
one of the other things I wanted to ask you about, and this kind of ties in that you're part of that change, you're part of that education, and is your involvement, or your I guess you founded this actually, right? The Virtual Handshake Academy.
mhm.
And tell me a little bit about that, and tell me a little bit about the work that you're doing outside of the strength and conditioning world.
Yeah, so two projects. I would say Virtual Handshake Academy is just kind of there. I don't do a ton of active work with that, but basically I just get, and I'm sure it's the same thing for you, but I get so many emails and questions about how did you get into strength and conditioning? What advice
Mhm.
do you have for a young woman? Like, I mean, I basically was getting the exact same question over and over and over again. So I started, and also just like receiving resumes as a coordinator in a role where I was receiving resumes and hiring and going through that
Mhm.
process, and seeing people's resumes and cover letters and going like, oh my gosh, like, it's not your fault, because they don't teach you this in college, and your
Right.
professor doesn't know, because it's a professor. Like, it's different. You
Mhm.
know, when you have to write a cover letter and a resume for a strength and conditioning job, your professor does not know how to do that. So even if they are teaching you, which they usually aren't, it's probably
Mhm.
not very good. So I just decided to put together the Virtual Handshake Academy. I just love, like, I love developing young people, and that's why I love coaching so much, is just developing these guys from as humans, right? And so the Virtual Handshake Academy is essentially a all encompassing course to, I would say, well, a couple of things. It's resume, cover letter, how to write a cold email to a professional in the field inquiring about a
Mhm.
job, um, social media, how to use that for good and not evil, because I think that's a scary topic these days.
Right.
Um, just all encompassing how to present yourself virtually for a job. So that's one
Mhm.
part of it. The other part of it is through writing their cover letter and writing about themselves and why they're so passionate about it. I think the more valuable part of the Virtual Handshake Academy is at least taking a peek into what's your purpose and what are your deepest like motivations, because every letter you get is like,
Mhm.
I like to help people and I want to work for you because you're awesome. Like, it's just the most generic thing ever. Like, no, I want to know, what struggle did you go through? Did you have an injury in your playing career? did you have somebody who inspired you in the weight room because you had an injury and you were in rehab and it just took you to a whole nother level? And like, those are really popular stories in your field as well. And so
Right.
I think just like, tell me your why, and then through them like developing this cover letter and telling their why, they are like, oh, now they kind of can like look introspectively and go, oh, now I understand why I'm in this field and what are my
Yeah.
motivations. So the
Right.
Virtual Handshake Academy is really just to empower young people to be able to present themselves, but also to kind of find themselves in the same breath. The other thing that I'm really more probably active in now and hoping to be much more active in is FEM. So I'm entering I think a different stage of my career, and Virtual Handshake Academy is definitely for, like, I would say undergrad and master's students and maybe people who are just out of their college degree. And then the female executive mentorship. So my friend Jen Wiederstrom and I have founded this company, and we're starting it. It's going to be event based at first, but basically it
Mhm.
is a very small and intimate event we're capping it at 30 women, and we're going to have everyone apply. And so it's basically for women who probably are like at a midpoint of their career or
Mhm.
just starting out, who are interested in getting to that next level, whether that's a C-level position or whether that's just a management position or it's in a male dominated field, and
Mhm.
finding their voice. And so the idea is that we're going to have 6 speakers, and we're calling it female executive mentorships, because it's mentors. You're not going to go to this event and you see the person speak for 45 minutes and then you don't see them the rest of the weekend. It's like all
Right.
6 speakers, who, by the way, we've got 2 CEOs, myself and Jen Wiederstrom, and we kind of had to put a halt on things because of COVID. So 2 more are in the works.
Mhm.
Um, but they are going to be there from the minute the guests arrive to the minute they leave. We're going to have them obviously speak on topics. So there's going to be curriculum based. It's not a feel good event. I mean, it is a feel good event, but it's not like I'm sure you've been to women's events where it's like, for some reason, a women's event always entails some kind of like yoga mat, pink balloons, Taylor Swift feel. And
Right.
we want this to be very like workshop based, where it's like
Yeah.
you are taking notes. We're doing group sessions. We're
Mhm.
breaking out where the young women who attend, or not even young women, any women who attend, can sign up for one-on-one sessions with their preferred mentor. And so we really just want to create an event because we are looking, Jen and I, my friend and the co-founder, we didn't have a lot of female mentors. We had excellent male mentors in our career, and I'm
Right.
so thankful for the men who were strong leaders for me in my career. But I had
Mhm.
no women to look to, and no women to go, hey, is it okay that they don't have a women's restroom? Should I fight for that, or is that something that I just put the toilet seat down and walk away? Like,
Right.
what do I fight for? What's okay? What's not okay? You know, I just I just think it's valuable to have a female mentor, and I totally wish I would have had those. So we want to create these events essentially to provide that in some way for women, where they can walk away and not only have actionable steps for their career, but feel like they got advice from a woman who's been in their
Mhm.
shoes before and who's climbed
Mhm.
those ranks before, and able to kind of speak from a more tangible like perspective. So that's FEM. I'm super excited about that.
Yeah.
We planned an event for middle of November.
Mhm.
We don't know if that's happening because of COVID,
Right.
but we're thinking either January of 2021 or even next fall of 2021, which is unfortunate, but it gives us more time to plan. So basically a 3-day event in Montana, and not only are we having like these obviously curriculum surrounding mentorship with women, but also
Mhm.
there's going to be a bit of an outdoors feel. We're going to kind of use our hands, get dirty a bit, go on some hikes, do some things. And so just kind of bringing a unique group of women together, a small group. So
Mhm.
hopefully by the time you leave, you've talked to all the mentors, and you've also talked to all of the attendees, and you can leave with connections and colleagues, and kind of feel a deeper sense of camaraderie than what we've seen typically with the women's events that are kind of like I said, just large, like assembly type um,
Right.
events. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
FEM. I'm super excited about that. Hoping we can get it off within the next year. So
That sounds awesome. It sounds like something I need to apply to.
yeah, it's really,
Yeah.
we definitely want to make sure it's open to like It's not just like, oh, I work for the Yankees, so it's sports. Like, I care about sports, but I don't care about sports. I care about organizational development and human development. I think
Yeah,
that applies to any field. And so it's not just for people in sports, it's for any woman who wants to advance her career and be around like-minded women who are also doing the same thing.
that sounds super cool. So, kind of along those lines, if you had to give one piece of advice to a young girl or a woman who wants to someday be in your shoes, what's that advice that you would give today?
I mean, this changes as I grow, but as of late, the thing on my mind is just what we kind of already talked about is, my mom always used to say when we were younger and my sisters would fight, even though we're so close right now, we're super close now, but of course, just like all sisters did, we fought growing up, and one of us would go complain to my mom and she would say, we'd say, oh, it's not fair. And she'd say, well, life's not fair. That was like her favorite saying, life's not fair. And like,
Yeah,
wow, how she was preparing me for life,
yeah,
really, life's not fair. You are going to get discriminated against. That's not fair either.
yeah,
But I think it's just like, you know what? If you're going to enter into a male dominated field, and especially for me, when there were there were zero women, like, do you really expect that to be easy? Like, you should
yeah.
maybe go into it with like a understanding, like, well, I'm going to have to take my lumps. I'm going to have to wait my turn. I'm going to have to work harder. I'm going to have to work
Mhm.
longer. I'm going to have to work shitty jobs. I'm going to have to move all
Mhm.
over the place. And I am so grateful that I had to do all of those things because I'm better for it.
Yeah.
I know guys that just got the job right out of college and then they didn't have to like move around or do anything different, or and like they're not as good as me. Just period. They're just not. And it's like it's not even their fault. Like, I was blessed with being discriminated against because it means that I had to work that much harder and hone my skills and try harder and just know that everyone, I'm under a microscope, and you
Yeah.
sure can relate to that. And so,
Yeah.
but it's made me better, and I know that. And so I would just say, like, life's not fair, but be grateful that you are the underdog, because the
Mhm.
underdog works harder and gets, like, and it's more rewarding, and I appreciate it. I think about it every single day. I think about how fortunate I am. So that's one thing. The other thing is, look, just roll your eyes, but like, put the toilet seat down. Just
Mhm.
understand that, just as hard as it is sometimes, and I was not always good at this, but now I'm like so good at it, where if something happens, I'm just like, oh, well, he's uncomfortable with me being here. And I just have to, like, if something's said or done or whatever, I'm like, well, he's uncomfortable with me being here, and I have to make him comfortable for me,
Yeah. Yeah.
because fighting against this, or verbalizing it, or arguing, or taking to Twitter, or suing. And there are some cases in which you should sue and take legal action,
Mhm.
right? But like,
Mhm.
if I sued for every time that something illegal happened, I'd have 100 lawsuits, like, it's like,
Right. Yeah. It's
it's,
picking your battles.
yeah, pick your
Yeah.
battles and understand that, again, change is hard for everyone, not just the men at work. Like, look at yourself and how you deal with change, and
Mhm.
then understand that you just being in the room makes some people uncomfortable, and you have to just let them get used to you, work
Yeah.
hard, do your thing, and then over
Right.
time they'll go, wow. Sometimes people will be like, wow, Rachel, I wasn't sure about you at first, but you're not that bad, or oh, you actually do a good job. I'm like, thanks a lot. Like, put the toilet seat down,
Right.
like,
Exactly.
thank you for that underhanded compliment. I really appreciate that. Like, they think they're being nice, so you
Yeah.
just, I guess, empathy is my second suggestion for young women getting into any kind of male dominated industry or situation.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you need to maybe make that a t-shirt for your workshop. Put the toilet seat down. Just put the
uh,
toilet seat down.
just do it. They don't hate you. They just
Yeah.
forget.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, I want to make sure that our listeners have a way to find you online if they want to learn more about you or get in touch with you. So, what's the best way to do
I think that if you can spell Balkovec, you can find me anywhere.
that?
But I just think my website is rachelbalkovec.com, and then that'll take you to, I mostly am on Instagram, some on Twitter. I have a podcast, and so my website will give you all that information.
Awesome. And it's the K comes first and then it's the C. I had to teach myself that,
Ooh,
right? Yeah.
yes, Balkovec. Yep. If
Because
you
I was like,
can,
which one is it first? Okay.
or if you just Google like "girl and Yankees," it'll probably pop up. So,
You'll be there. You're like, hey.
yeah,
Perfect.
yeah,
Thank you so much for being on. It was really just a lot of fun and eye-opening to talk to you and learn about you.
yeah. Thank you again. I can't say enough about. I just love this project, and I love that you yourself are a woman in the same shoes and wanting to bring light to other women's stories. And yeah, I think it's wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Awesome. That was fun. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
of course,
Yeah.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
what's the
So,
prognosis for you and your practice then?
well, it's kind of a weird, sort of a weird place to be in right now because it's like it's incredibly slow, but I'm kind of sitting here feeling a little bit helpless being a physician with all of this happening, and yet I don't feel like I can do as much to halt this tidal wave that's coming, right? And so I try to find, in addition to this project, I'm just trying to find other ways to do my part. Like I started collecting surgical instrument wrap, what we sterilize the instruments we wrap them in, and kind of connected with my favorite handbag maker in Portland, and I said, "Hey, can you sew this stuff into masks? If I find this material for you, can you make these masks?"
Wow.
And even though the hospitals don't take them into their own stock and their supply, there are all these first responders, so the police, fire
Yeah.
department, who are running out of PPE,
Yeah.
and so we're just going to donate them. So I'm just trying
Yeah.
to find other ways to get busy and stay busy. In the meantime, I'm learning all about telemedicine and what we can actually do in orthopedics with telemedicine, and I think
Yeah.
it's going to change our industry to some extent. There's never going to be, it's never going to eliminate the hands-on part, because so much of ortho is being able to examine somebody. That's so much of
Sure.
making the
No.
diagnosis, right? Like we
Yeah.
rely on x-ray and MRI only to confirm what we see with our eyes and what we feel with our hands. But I've realized, and I think a lot of us are realizing, that so much of what we do, like when you've already examined somebody and you just need to give them their MRI results and talk to them and explain things to them, show them the MRI, that can actually all be done by like
Totally.
teleconferencing. And so, there's been a big explosion in companies doing telemedicine and trying to figure out how to do it in a HIPAA compliant way. And we've kind of jumped on that. So I've been able to at least stay in touch with a lot of my patients that don't need to come in on an emergency basis. I have a couple where I'm still treating fractures. Somebody ruptures their patellar tendon,
Sure.
it's got to be fixed. So I still see a couple, but everything else elective wise, we're like, we'll see you in the summer. We got to wait.
Yeah.
So, and so what about you? You're gonna make your way to Denver to see your sister, and
Yeah. And
what's
then
happening next?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just, I think I'm guessing in another month or so, they'll I would guess the major league players back, just so, I mean, the money, like the money
Oh,
that is, and not
yeah.
just for the teams, it's like the
Yeah.
advertising, the people that work at the park, I mean, just sports is just, I mean, everyone's feeling it, but sports just provides so many jobs for people.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to probably try to get major league season going, especially because baseball, it's not like it's football, they're not touching each other all the time.
Right.
So I don't know, but at least a month. That's why I was
Yeah.
like, okay, if I have to drive back across the country, it's going to be a month at least. So
Yeah.
I just got
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
It
it
was,
is
it
like,
was probably
there's
wise.
a lot of people that are much worse off than me personally, and also baseball. So it is what it is. And I mean, I'm
Yeah.
good with downtime. I don't get anxious. I got plenty of shit to do, and I
Mhm.
have reading and writing and podcasts. And so
Yeah.
I'm good, but
Totally.
yeah.
Well, good. Well, I hope you have a safe drive out there. Stay safe and stay healthy. And I look forward to just kind of seeing what happens with what you're doing with them, and I'm serious,
Yeah.
it sounds amazing. It sounds
Yeah.
really,
Well,
really
I
cool.
mean, it really is like for, I don't know if it is, I don't really know where you're at in your career, but I think it's just an opportunity for like high level. That's why it's going to be application. You know, we
Yeah.
want to vet the people, and it's not like exclusive. It's really just like making sure that we have women who are not 24-year-olds that haven't done,
Mhm.
you know, like someone who's like already been in their career a little bit, and so they're not just getting value from like the speakers, but they're talking to each other and
Right.
bouncing ideas off of each other. So we want to have like a really like rich group of women who can add value to each other, not just the speakers. So um I mean, yeah, I don't want to say, oh, I don't think it's for you, but I don't really know where you're at in your career. Just if you want to,
Yeah.
it's really just like, do
Well,
you want to like hang around 30 awesome women? That's, it's, you don't have to like be needing it, you know.
right. No,
But
it sounds really cool, and you know, if when you launch more information about it, I'd be happy
yeah,
to share it wherever I can too.
great. Yeah,
That
I
would be
appreciate
great.
it. So
Yeah.
all right.
All
Well,
right,
I
thank
mean,
you
be in
so
touch if you
much.
need anything else, or, you know, for the podcast or otherwise.
Yeah, and if you think of anyone who might be a good fit for the podcast, please send them
Okay.
my way and just email me.
Okay. I will.
All right. Have
All
a
right.
good one.
Okay. You too. Bye.
Take care. Bye.